WCOV TV, your CBS station for Montgomery.
From Montgomery's news station, this is COV Eyewitness News, live at 5, with Kim Wanis, Sally Lewis, Mark Goodwin's weather, and Bob Barnes with sports.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kim Wanis.
And I'm Sally Lewis. The tables are turning with new evidence today in the federal trial of 7 Alabama prison officials accused of abusing inmates. Today, a Kilby prison chaplain and a guard told the jury that they didn't see any evidence of abuse after the 1983 Kilby uprising. The 2 men are the first to testify on behalf of the defense, who began their proceedings today. Chaplain Charles Smith says he spoke with several inmates the day of the uprising, and he said he saw no injuries. Correctional Officer Darrell Parker testified that he saw inmates being forced to scrub floors on their hands and knees while naked, but he said that was because the inmates had burned their clothing during the uprising. Parker said the only injuries he saw were to inmates who had physically resisted guards during that rebellion. Prosecutors claim the inmates were beaten with batons after the uprising, and a series of witnesses testified Monday that they did see inmates beaten, one of whom admitted he hit an inmate after being ordered to do so by a former captain guard.
Officials at Auburn University and at the University of Alabama system say they may appeal that federal judge's ruling, which said the state maintains a racially segregated system of higher education. Auburn President James Martin says federal judge U.W. Clement was wrong when he wrote that Auburn is the state's most segregated college. Martin says the university has made fairly significant progress in recruiting blacks, and he says the court ruling will make future efforts to increase the number of black students at Auburn more difficult. Judge Clement ruled that vestiges of segregation still exist at Auburn and that the school's racial attitudes have changed very little since the 1950s. Valentine's Day has been set as the deadline for state officials to submit a plan to end the discrimination. No word on when a Montgomery Circuit judge will rule on the latest legal maneuver by a woman who claims to be the illegitimate daughter of country music legend Hank Williams. Kathy Stone is fighting a lawsuit that would keep her from sharing in the late singer's multi-million-dollar estate. Her lawyers were in court here in Montgomery yesterday asking Judge Joseph Phelps to dismiss the suit that has been filed by Williams' son, Hank Jr. of Coleman, and music publishers Roy Acuff and Fred Rose.
47 Alabama companies that handle hazardous waste have failed to meet a November federal deadline. Lee Pegues, director of the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, says only 10 companies were able to comply with the federal regulations.
They had to do 2 things. One, they had to show that they could monitor the groundwater. Groundwater meaning water that's under the ground. In other words, in their hazardous waste pits or dumps or lagoons, they had to have a way to test to be sure that water was not leaching, waste was not leaching into the groundwater. The second thing, and the most difficult thing for them to do, was to acquire insurance for these sites where money could be provided in case that site became a hazardous to the environment or if it were abandoned.
Pegues says many of the companies that couldn't comply were small companies that weren't able to afford the $1 million liability insurance, and they had to stop on-site disposal. However, he says there's a chance that these companies may still be able to operate in the future.
Now, my understanding from a release by EPA, that's the federal agency, is perhaps Congress is considering finding a way for companies that can monitor the leachate to be able to comply without the insurance. And that would give relief to some of the companies.
Pegues says until that proposal becomes federal law, these companies must transport their waste to a licensed commercial facility. Chemical waste management operators of the state's largest landfill at Emel met the deadline.
An executive with the Polaroid Corporation is accusing Alabama lawmakers of fixing a state law to keep his company from competing for the contract to make Alabama driver's licenses. Polaroid marketing manager Frank Weir says the new driver's license requirements are so strange that only one company, National Business Systems, can fill Alabama's contract. That company was represented at the Capitol last year by a former top aide to Governor George Wallace. A political watchdog group says Billy Joe Camp and other top aides to the governor are among those state officials who the group claims are illegally using private tags on state cars. The Taxpayers Defense Fund filed suit last week challenging the widespread use of private plates on state vehicles instead of the special S-designated tags. Jim Ziegler, the attorney for the group, says Camp, along with about 200 other top officials, are replacing their state tags with private plates to disguise their personal use of the vehicles. Camp says Ziegler doesn't know what he's talking about. He says it's okay for the governor's staff to use private tags because the cars are leased. But Ziegler argues the law requires all vehicles, either owned or used by the state, to have state tags unless they're being used for undercover or investigative work.
The law says very clearly that any person who operates a state vehicle owned or used by the state with an improper tag is guilty of a misdemeanor. So it doesn't matter if the state owns the car or the state is leasing the car. And so his excuse is not going to hold water.
Ziegler claims the governor's executive secretary, Elvin Stanton, and Bill Rushton, one of Wallace's cabinet members, are also violating the law. State Treasurer Annie Laurie Gunter and David Bronner, the head of the Alabama Retirement Systems, have also been identified as using the tags illegally. Ziegler says, unfortunately, the law doesn't include what type of punishment should be given for violating it. The offense is listed as a criminal misdemeanor. That's punishable by up to 1 year in prison. The Taxpayers Defense Fund, however, says they will leave any criminal charges up to the Attorney General. Right now, they only want the use of private tags on state cars stopped. Coming up next on Eyewitness News, today was Human Rights Day, and we'll look at the plight of Soviet Jews.
And the basketball series between Auburn and AUB may be in jeopardy. Details when we come back. Forestry is Alabama's leading industry with an economic impact of about $2 billion annually. But now thousands of state landowners stand to lose a lot of money. And as Danita Wood reports, Canadian imports are starting to chop up Alabama's timber market.
Alabama's 23 million acres of forested land make our state the nation's wood basket of the future. But not all is well here at the lumber mill. Even though demand is increasing for wood and its byproducts, Canadian imports are cutting into the market. Huge amounts of pine timber are being imported from Canada at extremely low prices, underselling many U.S. mills.
Danita, it's having a tremendous impact on Alabama, particularly our pine sawmills and all the people down the line that work to produce lumber for those, to grow trees for those, and every other way that are directly or indirectly affected by the impact of this tremendous importation of Canadian lumber that we're seeing in Alabama and all over the whole country.
American producers are cutting back production, and thousands of jobs and millions of dollars have already been lost to the Canadian imports. Correcting the situation won't be easy, as Canada is America's biggest trading partner. But timber officials are optimistic that something can be done about the Canadian subsidized lumber.
The United States and Canada, along with some other countries, are supposed to be entering in some new trade negotiations, and we think there's a possibility that we'll get some relief there. There's also legislation pending in Congress to make it illegal for foreign governments to subsidize natural resources that are then shipped into the United States at depressed prices.
McMillan says if the situation continues, it will affect even the smallest timber landowner because producers will be forced to pay lower prices or in some cases go completely out of business. Danita Wood, COV Eyewitness News.
Today is Human Rights Day across the country. Here in Montgomery, a program at Huntington College will focus on the plight of Jews and other oppressed groups in the Soviet Union. Soviet Jews are being arrested and beaten for teaching Jewish culture. That's according to the president of the Alabama Council to Save Soviet Jews. Babette Wampold says the Russian government has even formed an anti-Semitic committee that is harassing Jews.
Tonight's program is to try to make people aware of what's happening in the Soviet Union to Soviet Jews as well as to other Soviets who are oppressed, Christians, people who believe in democracy, who we call dissidents, labor, people who believe in free labor unions, people who even want to read poetry or paint pictures that are not approved by the Soviet state. and they have been thrown into prisons or lose their jobs.
WAPO says there are some 40,000 Soviet Jews who want to leave that country but can't because the government won't issue them visas. Tonight's program at Huntington begins at 7:30 in Flowers Hall.
The Alabama Shakespeare Festival held their first show for the public today. The performance was sold out and most of the patrons were under the age of 18. It's part of the theater's School Fest. Throughout May, students from every junior and senior high school in Alabama will be given the opportunity to attend the plays for reduced prices. Carol Ogus, the Director of Educational Services, says hopefully they'll be able to introduce some 2,500 young people to the theater through the cultural outreach. Most of the 700 students who watched A Midsummer Night's Dream today say it was their first taste of a classic Shakespearean play.
Our teacher made sure that we would understand it because we had read some of the book before and I understood it a lot better than I thought I would.
Mr. Gosden made sure that we understood it, before we came and we knew what they were talking about.
I thought it was interesting to see how the way Shakespeare taught back then and how the plays were written and how everything was back then in the stage. We studied about it in school and then we got to saw it in real life and I just thought it was pretty neat.
But as it went along, I understood the meaning more as far as getting the jokes and as far as that. But it was, I enjoyed it. I've been to the Showboat and other plays, but this has been the best one for me.
The students came from as far as 200 miles away today to see the play. The theater plans to hold 6 or 7 school fests a month to benefit Alabama students. And moving on to sports with Bob.
Big college basketball showdown tonight.
Yeah, it is.
Favorite.
UAB is the favorite. UAB has done well. That was expected. Auburn has been something of a disappointment. That really doesn't surprise me a great deal. Coach Smith's teams, he's a great guy, but his teams are kind of up and down. And there's talk of the series being in jeopardy. I really don't buy that. We'll talk about that as we go along in previewing tonight's contest. Auburn and UAB get together in basketball for the 4th time tonight in Birmingham's Civic Center Coliseum with the nationally ranked Blazers a 4.5-point favorite over disappointing Auburn, which has a 3-2 record. UAB is 5-1. At last report, better than 13,000 tickets had been sold. The Coliseum holds close to 17, and all previous games have been virtual sellouts. Even so, there is the suggestion that the series might be coming to an end. More on that a little later on in the sports block. Any self-respecting basketball fan from our area knows about Auburn's great Chuck Person, but UAB has a man it feels is just as deserving of All-America recognition.
Steve Mitchell is considered one of the best pure shooters in college basketball today. Last year, he was an honorable mention All-America selection. As a senior, he's been called by one national sportscaster as one of the 2 best guards anywhere, along with Mark Price of Georgia Tech.
I think it's quite an honor to be, put in that category, seeing that there are quite a few good point guards throughout the nation. I really think it's an honor.
The Memphis, Tennessee native combines excellent quickness, ball handling skills, a soft shooting touch, and strong floor leadership to lead the Blazers' attack. He did last year by averaging over 18 points per game, and he doesn't compile his fine numbers by resting on his laurels during the summer months.
And I came as a freshman, not even in the same class, so I don't know. I think a lot of hard work that I've been doing really in the summertime and the off season is really paying off. So, I just keep working hard and trying to develop my game and push myself to my limits.
Mitchell feels good about UAB's chances of improving last year's record and going beyond the second round of the NCAA tournament.
I think we're a team with a lot more experience. We had everybody back from a team that went 25-9 last year. And I think we're a veteran ball club with real season. And I don't know, so we can get a great year.
Tom Myers for CBS News.
Now, as to the matter of UAB-Auburn basketball being a short-lived courtship, possibly. Auburn's Sonny Smith suggested that in casual conversation recently with reporters. Why? Because he feels UAB has the advantage playing every year in Birmingham. Okay, says Gene Bartow, play at home and home. You keep your ticket sales and we'll keep ours. Well, that's not going to work because Auburn would lose money. So the series will continue, and it will continue in Birmingham. The Alabama State Hornets tonight will play their last home game before the holidays. Morris Brown of Georgia checks in for a 7:30 tip-off with a record of 4-2. The Hornets have won 3 straight themselves, but look at a road swing that'll take them to Arkansas, New Mexico, and Oral Roberts. Tough Christmas sledding. State is averaging 94 points per contest, but is being badly out-rebounded. The Hornets are small, and Coach James Oliver might have to go away from his beloved man-to-man pressure to a zone simply because of personnel. Again, that tip-off tonight in C.J. Dunn at 7:30. And finally, a football note. The top 20, the final regular season coaches, or United Press International top 20. Here's how it stacks up. Very little change, of course, because there were few games last weekend. Penn State has a stranglehold on number 1. Oklahoma will play Penn State in the Orange Bowl in all probability for the national championship. Iowa, with one loss, still feels it has a shot. It's not a realistic one. Iowa plays UCLA in the Rose Bowl. Iowa is kind of in the same position that Auburn was the year that 1983, when it felt like it deserved consideration for the national title. Miami will play Tennessee in the Sugar Bowl. Miami is a realistic challenger for the national championship, but again, probably the Penn State-Oklahoma winner. And then there's Michigan. On to the second brace of 5 teams. Nebraska, with a couple of losses. Air Force, with its best team ever, finished 11-1. Tennessee, one of the surprise teams in the country this year. A great coaching job done by Johnny Majors and his defensive coordinator, a fellow named Ken Donahue. Then you see Brigham Young and LSU. LSU, the second highest ranked team out of the Southeastern Conference. Texas A&M, Arkansas, UCLA, and then of course Alabama and Auburn. Alabama and Auburn are ranked by UPI just where they were last week. And to complete the top 20 for you, Florida State, Ohio State, both of those teams are bowl bound. Fresno State, with its first ranked team ever. Fresno's been ranked for about 3 or 4 weeks now. Oklahoma State and Arizona. Arizona will catch Georgia in the Sun Bowl. That's sports. Thanks for watching. Kim and Sally.
All right, Bob. Every year, we all know that birds fly south for warmer weather. Well, as you know, turtles are a little slower than their feathered relatives. They need a little help sometimes to get home.
They were the first passengers off the plane, causing quite a stir for curious travelers. This precious cargo arrived from Atlantic City after being nursed back to health from cold shock. The 4 turtles of the Kemp's Ridley species rode in style, strapped into reserved seats, compliments of a Florida flight's charter jet.
They got a little upset when we landed.
The turtles had strayed from tropical waters and ended up on a Long Island beach a few weeks ago. Their 2 escorts are from the Marine Mammal Stranding Center in New Jersey that arranged for their return because there are so few of them alive.
They are an endangered species. I'm not sure of the exact count of the species, but they are endangered.
Hearing this, the airline donated the seat space. Other carriers would only give the turtles passage in chilly cargo areas. The 4 weigh between 1 to 5 pounds now, but will grow to weigh up to 50 pounds. This isn't the final destination for these turtles. They'll be put in a holding tank in Miami and released from Key Largo. In Fort Lauderdale, Jennifer Clark, News.
Well, we enjoyed another fine day here in Central Alabama.
But watch out, the coldest weather of the season is coming in this weekend. Weather's next. I noticed Mark's getting candy canes these days instead of cookies. What's the story?
Well, we've made an appeal for Christmas cookies, and today Denise Hawkins and Brenda Jones of a local bank gave me, well, actually, they're half candy canes. They said they didn't want to treat the kids to too much candy, so they're giving these away, and they gave these to the staff of WCOV News. So
did they bring them over, or did you have to get them?
I had to pick them up, but the pizza will be delivered later. Outside currently, under partly cloudy skies, we have a temperature of 62 degrees, easterly winds now at about 5 miles an hour, and our barometric pressure is at 30.25 and steady. Again, partly cloudy on the outside with 62% relative humidity. Well, our temperatures in Alabama will change drastically over the next few days. Low temperatures last night in the east, mostly in the 40s for Alabama, but as you got farther to the west, the low temperatures actually increased with highs in the 70s. The entire state of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, that's coming to an end. This storm here over Texas, following the jet stream, which is dipping all the way into Old Mexico, is moving.
I noticed Mark's getting candy canes these days instead of cookies. What's the story?
Well, we've made an appeal for Christmas cookies, and today Denise Hawkins and Brenda Jones of a local bank gave me, well, actually, they're half candy canes. They said they didn't want to treat the kids to too much candy, so they're giving these away, and they gave these to the staff of WCOV News.
Oh,
so
did they bring them over, or did you have to get them?
I had to pick them up, but the pizza will be delivered later. Outside currently under partly cloudy skies, we have a temperature of 62 degrees, easterly winds now at about 5 miles an hour, and our barometric pressure's at 30.25 and steady. Again, partly cloudy on the outside with 62% relative humidity. Well, our temperatures in Alabama will change drastically over the next few days. Low temperatures last night in the east, mostly in the 40s for Alabama, but as you got farther to the west, the low temperatures actually increased with highs in the 70s. The entire state of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, that's coming to an end. This storm here over Texas, following the jet stream, which is dipping all the way into Old Mexico, is moving to the northeast. You can see this band of moisture and precipitation here and thunderstorms. That's moving our way over the next few days. Cloud cover in the west shows a developing snowstorm that's been developing over the last few days in the Rockies, moving toward the plains. Here's the next very big storm in the Gulf of Alaska, pumping moisture into Alaska, and it'll also be moving toward this jet stream, then funnel down to the south, and it's kicking up these low pressure systems that are deepening to almost a hurricane strength as far as low pressure systems are concerned, but because they're over the land, of course they don't have the tropical nature to them. They're spinning through the jet stream to the northeast, and that's where this front kind of comes into the picture for our weather on Wednesday night and Thursday, and you can see the thunderstorms lining up on that by Wednesday's forecast. In the east, we can see by Wednesday afternoon the clouds pushing into our area with rain. They say by tomorrow night we have a 70% chance of thunderstorms. Texas weather right now, they have thunderstorms, sleet, snow, and rain. That's all moving to the east. Should not affect us with sleet and snow, but we'll get a lot of rain out of it. Low temperatures tonight, mostly in the 50s in Alabama, and high temperatures tomorrow. You can see that warm moisture pumping up 70s, 60s, but look how it drops off drastically to the northwest. Currently around our state right now, 59 in Huntsville, 67 in Birmingham. Dothan has 70 and 68 in Mobile. We have the coolest, or one of the coolest readings at 62 degrees in Montgomery. Our forecast for tonight looks like this. Partly cloudy skies, low temperature about 50 degrees. And then the interesting weather starts tomorrow, mostly cloudy with the approach of the storm. Continued warm in the afternoon, highs about 75. But for tomorrow night, thunderstorms are likely, a 70% chance, low about 55. And for Thursday, it's going to turn colder. The high temperature should reach about 60 around noon, and then temperatures will fall off drastically. 80% chance of continuing thunder showers for Thursday, and Friday and Saturday is going to get colder and colder and colder. So,
how cold?
Well, right now they say high temperatures only in the 30s by Saturday in central Alabama. So it's going to change from 70s to 30s in about 4 days.
Some Christmas weather, finally.
Finally.
Okay.
Check your News Watcher card right now. There's $80 in the jackpot. If you have this number, 114721, you are a winner. Give us a call at 288-7020 right now within 10 minutes, and we'll pass out that $80 to you.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Coming up next on Eyewitness News, a basketball team that's only 6 inches high.
They don't play for fame or glory, but instead, Fruit Loops don't go away. Traditionally, animals have been the most popular mascots for athletic teams, but what do you call a basketball team that crawls around on all fours?
It all started last September for college students Chris Day and Scott Haas in their animal psychology class, a project in learning behavior. It all climaxed in the Spalding University Gymnasium, a game of 2-on-2 rat basketball.
Their memory, they only have like a 1.5 second memory span.
Day's pair of rodents played under the nickname of the University of Kentucky Wildcats. Haas's team carried the colors of the University of Louisville Cardinals. No player received any cash payments under the table, only bits of cereal whenever one made a basket. In this game, if you don't score, you don't eat. In the first 5-minute half, it was close for a while, but the Kentucky Rats, Kenny Walker and James Blackman, kept stealing the ball, taken from a roll-on deodorant container, and went in for easy slam dunks. In the second half, Milt Wagner and Billy Thompson, the Louisville Rats, became demoralized, perhaps because of the enthusiastic crowd.
The final score was 28-6 in favor of the visiting Kentucky Wildcats.
They won by virtue of 90% shooting and a tenacious rat-to-rat defense. Barry Burnson for CBS News, Louisville.
We'll get the extended forecast from the Candyman.
The Candyman.
Candyman can.
The extended forecast says by Wednesday night, showers moving into the area. Thursday, 80% chance of thunder showers. Temperatures falling throughout Thursday into the 40s. And then by Friday, showers and colder. Saturday, colder yet. Continued cloudy and still continued cold on Sunday, with temperatures down in the 20s by Sunday.
Is it going to stay at that level now, or are we going to have another summertime before Christmas?
Isn't that Alabama, though? Doesn't it just kind of go up and down like a roller coaster?
Yeah.
At this point, they're saying continue cold through Sunday, and Monday looks like pretty much the same thing.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's our report for now. Thanks for watching.
We'll be back after Dan Rather, and we'll have the latest on the Kilby prison trial, so we'll see you then.
Goodbye.